In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Welcome everyone in the first lecture. And our first lecture will be on the human question about existence, about life, about afterlife, about many things in life. And it seems for me today challenging actually to try to conclude everything in about 10-15 minutes. I will be trying to conclude the several answers from Orthodox perspective and from Christian perspective, especially for those who are coming from non-Christian background. Let us just go through all of this quickly. It seems like a puzzle when we speak about Christianity and about religion in general, because religion all about is about seeking God and seeking God. The question is why? Why do we seek God? And is it only us who are seeking God? Is it just something comes in our way to seek God, or just a question that comes by mind from time to time? And why? Why all of this? Actually, when we look at the archaeology and the many discoveries of the old civilizations, we will find that on caves and sculptures had been found everywhere, that there are many ritual scenes depicted on the walls of these caves. And if you look at pharaohs, for example, you will find the many ritual things indicates that they ran after some kind of religion somehow. So hundreds of thousands of examples tells us that man from the very beginning, he was seeking God. When you look at anthropology, the anthropological dimension of this puzzle about seeking God, you will find also that religion takes effort, takes time, consumes a lot of resources. Many people put their lives for religion. Could it happen for no reason? I don't think so. So it happens for a reason. So the anthropological dimension of this tells us that there must be a reason behind all of these things. The question of meaning. The question of meaning also part of this puzzle when we look at the point of all what happens in our life. What happens in our life is a part of it. And there is always a meaning, and there is a resistant question all the time that people might pose all the time. Why? Why this happen? Why now? Why is not later? Why forever? This question of meaning poses itself as a very essential part of our existence, a kind of existential question that always posed all the time tells that there must be a reason behind all of these things. There are some people saying we create our meaning ourselves. I can create my own meaning in life, my own principle, my own values, and so on and so forth. And this is the meaning I do for myself. But remember that the meaning that you do and or make or create for yourself is connected, very much firmly connected with meanings of others. What about the rationality of meanings that others create? Many questions will be posed non-stop flow of questions all the time. Why and why and why? And still, meaning in this case is becoming relative. It's not a constant, it's a variable all the time, because my meaning is different from yours, and ours is different from others, and so on and so forth. So meaning itself is not a constant, but it's becoming a very variable concept of our existence. When it comes to actually the Orthodox understanding or the Orthodox response to that, before I tell you about something about the Orthodox perspective, you should know that Orthodoxy means straight. Orthodogma means the straight dogma or the straight way of understanding anything. So understanding these things, especially the meaning of everything, is also a point to be studied carefully under the Orthodox sociology, to tell meaning of the universe as a dependent creation on the independent God. In the Orthodox theology, we depict God as the source of everything, and then everything is becoming dependent on Him. But God Himself is independent in Himself, though everything is dependent on God, so everything grows and flourish in relation to God. Everything or whatever it is wouldn't exist if we'll disconnect from God. So the continuity of this life and the flow of meaning and the variability of meaning and whatever it is, the meaning you create for yourself or others make, is a dependent factor on the independent God. Many existential questions, not only about the meaning, actually. If we jump quickly to the meaning of suffering, when we see someone suffers from some kind of illness, some kind of difficulty, some kind of problem in life, some kind of catastrophes in nature or whatever it is, we start to wonder why. Again, why? And moreover, we say it shouldn't be like that. When the pandemic COVID-19 had come to, to our life, a lot of people start to show up on social media and discuss it. It shouldn't be like that. There should be something wrong. The question here, why should? Where does it come from, this should? So what is the right to be shouldn't? And what is the thing, the relative thing you are measuring to that makes it should or shouldn't? This thing that we measure everything in relation to is the existence, the source of existence. The source of existence is this, what we call God. When we come later to the concept of philosophy, we will understand that the first mover of everything that we indicate and depict in theology as God is the one and the only thing creating this question should. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, but you still have your should. But you should be aware that your should does not come out of nowhere. It comes from the source of being, the source of existence, the source of life, the source of rationalism, the source of everything. So the source of everything will be the prime source of everything, the first mover of everything, as Aristotle called it later on. We will come through all of this later on. When it comes to this, one of the most existential questions that we pose all the time, look at yourself as a human being and looking at myself. I know, and everyone else does also know that we will die. However, we find several problems to accept it. We know, but we don't accept it. However, on the other side, when you look at animals, they don't know that they will face some kind of eventual death, but they still just live. They still just live, and they don't acknowledge it, and they don't even questioning or anything like that. We are the only creation on this earth that we know that we will die. However, we don't accept it still. And the question is why again? But this is something no one can deny, that it exists. No one can just challenge it. So this means that there are many things that we cannot control. These things are related to the independent God, the independent first mover, and the source of everything that we are running after. Our nature tells us that there is a thing. The question of hope, imagine, where does it come from? Hope. And hoping for what? Hope for what exactly? Hope in human progress, hope in personal legacy, hope in pleasure, hope in nothing, hope in what? Hope, where does it come from? Hope. Hope is just like should. Should and hope, where? And for what? Should what? Shouldn't what? Hoping for what? Hoping not for what? and why hope, and so on and so forth. Real hope is actually sustains people through difficulty. Seems to require something beyond the material order. It requires a confidence that universe is ultimately purposeful, goodness will prevail, love and justice are not temporary. This does not have the final word. Hope in something good. Actually, hope makes, from the Orthodox perspective, hope makes sense that there is God who's absolutely good, because no one hopes for something bad, but everyone hopes for something good. And this, the good thing and the goodness of everything, will be the first cause of everything, the first cause of existence. Actually, you and me and everyone else could wonder if this is some kind of philosophy that we are discussing today. Actually, it's not. It's not some kind of philosophy. This is some kind of understanding, because looking at the philosophy itself, you will find that masters of philosophies like Plato or Aristotle, they had some big questions to answer. But these questions are explaining about what already existed. They started to think under the capacities of their minds. They have been trying seriously to find the answers for things that come under the capacities of their minds as human beings, as well as every other human being who was trying to think, who was trying to develop ideas, who was trying to create explanations. But notice that and be aware that we are putting this effort for things that already had existed, not for things that we have never been informed on. We have no philosophy on things that does not come under the capacities of our mind. Look at Aristotle. Let us take Plato first. Plato, he's speaking about, argued that the material reality is not ultimate. He proposed the realm of eternal perfect form that physical things imperfectly reflect. The form of the good stands above all things, a kind of ultimate reality that gives existence and meaning to everything else. So this is Plato. A form of reality, the form of the good stands above all others, a kind of ultimate reality that gives existence, ultimate reality that gives existence to the things that we already know, that everything else which exists. On the other side, Aristotle, also on the same track, developed arguments for the prime mover, a prime mover, and a changing eternal cause behind all change in the universe. This prime mover must exist because otherwise you get an infinite regress of cause which reason cannot accept. Post-philosophers concluded the ultimate reality must be like that, unchanging, eternal, and good, and rational. All of these things, the unchanging things which already exist, eternal, which really already we have been informed on, but it stays after life. We can comprehend it by our mental capacities, which is good. We can decide what is good and what is bad. It's a relative case based on something over and super good. Rational is still connected to our mental capacities that makes everything rational. All of these things comes under the capacities of our minds, and our minds are created. Philosophy falls short in what? Falls short in explaining God, because still God behind all of these things, and the philosophy is the production of mind, and mind is created. So this makes a philosophy abstract rather than personal, makes it distant rather than engaged, makes it knowable in principle but not in relationship, makes God knowable, but philosophy is not able to establish a relationship between me and God. We could comprehend that there is God, there is a prime source of existence, but it doesn't tell us how to relate to Him. The goodness is in somewhere, but we are in a different part, on the other and the opposite pole of that. And philosophy makes God perfect, but unconcerned with human affairs. This is something actually very much important. The problem isn't that philosophy is wrong. It's not wrong, but it's incomplete. It does not tell and answer existential questions that come under the capacities of our mind. The gap here is big. Is big between what we can understand and what lies behind our understanding. What lies behind our understanding, we can know about it, we can feel it, we can understand that there is something missing. But the question, this understanding, this comprehension that something is missing, where does it come from again? You will just run in an endless tunnel of ideas that leads it to something really exists, but you wouldn't be able with these mental capacities and the human capacities to realize it under these conditions of bodily creation, let's say, or human creation. You would need something else to grab it actually. This thing could come only under what we call in Orthodox perspective a revelation. The revelation is kind of relational action established between man and God to reveal what already existed and we have been informed on, but we have never been able to grab it or understand it in our mind or just create a meaningful explanation for it. The Orthodox position is actually very crucial in explaining and understanding all of these things. This doesn't mean abandoning reason that Orthodox theology engages philosophy seriously. It does engage philosophy seriously, uses logical arguments and value intellectual clarity, but it insists that divine revelation, God's self-disclosure to humanity, provides what reason alone cannot explain: the personal knowledge of God and the means of restoration to communion with Him. It's a kind of communion, and this is actually the Orthodox perspective in grabbing the knowledge of God. When it comes also to Orthodox understanding of humanity itself, we have, it's becoming non-escapable to skip Genesis, first chapter, verse 26 and 27. It tells us that we have been created according God's image and likeness. And in Orthodox theology, we differentiate between God's image and God's likeness. God's image is what we are by creation, but God's likeness is actually what we are meant to be after we have been created according to His image. It looks like, for example, if you look at a piece of marble, this piece of marble, by creation, the material is marble, but the sculpture and the carvings on this marble, it tells what is meant to be. It's not only a piece of marble, but it's becoming something meaningful, something purposeful, something that really tells a piece of art or anything like that. However, it wasn't be like that before. That's why we have been created according to the image of God by creation. And we will come afterwards in the coming lectures. What does it mean exactly? But what we are meant to be, and what we are meant to be now and in eternity in relation to God, this is what we call it, the likeness of God. We will come into more understanding and more discussions, broadened discussions around the image and the likeness of God in the coming lectures, and of course in the prolonged lecture afterwards. And one last and not the least thing here is about the Orthodox understanding of philosophy and the humanity and the relation to God and seeking God and so on and so forth, is actually what the Orthodox Christianity teaches us. The Orthodox Christianity teaches us harmony. We can just make it up like that. It's harmony. Harmony with God. It creates tracks to be harmonized with God. It creates tracks to be harmonized with creation of God. It creates a harmony with each other. It gives a harmony also with oneself. To be in harmony with others, to be harmony with myself, harmony with creation, harmony with God. It's some kind of harmony. You don't exist alone. So you would need some kind of tracks to be relating to your source. Where have you been come from? So it's not like just some kind of relation or some kind of attaching or towing some kind of carriage to a car. No, you should exist in some kind of harmony. This is what the Orthodox theology tells us about, and we are coming into further details in the coming lectures on these things. You will find by the end of the lecture, I will just hand it out to you, and we'll leave it through the material of the course about the key texts actually to read, some of them from the book of Acts, some of them of St. Paul, some of them from church fathers, and some of them just like philosophical concepts that we should focus on. Sorry that I have taken 21 minutes now, so that took more than I planned actually, but hopefully that will leave a good understanding to the material we are discussing today. Hoping to see you in future lectures. I will try to condense it as possible as we can. The most important, to leave something meaningful, something purposeful, something to be working with the grace of God to enlighten your way into better understanding, better harmony with God, better harmony with yourself, better harmony with the creation of God, and to find the meaning for many things that you are searching in your life as far you are seeking the truth. God bless you, and see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye.